Welcome to Biogas TV. By now, you've figured out I'm Paul Green and I run a biogas advisory business. This is the number one live stream TV show dedicated to the biogas industry in the world. Biogas TV is pleased to announce that the winners for this year's Giants of Biogas competition have been announced. So far in seasons 3 and 4, we featured the nominees. However, today we feature our first winner. Lauren Toretta is president and CEO of CH4 Biogas. At CH4, Lauren has a wide range of duties, including managing corporate strategy and operations. She leads CH4 Focus to work with agriculture and food and beverage sectors to provide environmental waste and renewable energy solutions. Starting more than 15 years ago, Lauren led financing and business development for the company. As a result of those efforts, CH4 Biogas has multiple operating facilities and several in development with attention on future projects in the Northeast and Midwest. In her role, Lauren's always been highly involved with the development of the U.S. biogas industry through policy by helping to build awareness of the economic and environmental benefits of AD. Prior to joining CH4 Biogas, Lauren worked at General Electric and McKinsey & Company. Lauren has an MBA from Harvard Business School and a BA from Harvard College. Today's episode is sponsored by Captivate Technology. If your RNG project is saddled with high OpEx, Captivate's state-of-the-art MOF media is worth a look. MOFs use about half the electricity versus traditional PSA media for separating methane and CO2. Find them at captivatetechnology.com. It's good to have along my co-host, Alex McFarlane from RNG Connect and Drew Pusho from Equus Energy, who will present the offtake roundup portion of the show. With that, Lauren, it's great to see you, and congrats on being a winner of Giants of Biogas.
Thank you very much. Very happy to be here. I didn't realize I was the first one post announcement. I feel very honored.
You know, you're up where the air is rare today. So good. Did you want to kick us off with some pictures, a little show and tell?
Sure, absolutely. And I can do that. Okay, let's do this one first. Bear with me 1 second while I post this. All right, are you viewing this?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah, there it is.
There it is. Biogas glory. There we go. So this plant was built in 2011. So CH4 Biogas was formed in 2008. And I joined the company probably in 2010, probably, roughly. Can't even remember. It's been so long. But this is based on a Danish technology, and it's a complete mix digester. This is located on a farm, as you'll see on the right side. You'll see on the very far right, you'll see the corner piece over here is one of the dairy barns, and you'll see obviously the lagoon, the bedding operations, and here digester. We have a post-digestion storage tank. And when I'll switch to a different picture so you can see the receiving in a few minutes. So the company was founded in 2008 based on evaluation of digesters in Europe. As I'm sure everyone on this call is acutely aware that Europe has been more advanced in the biogas space than the US has historically. Although with that said, we were very early in the space. And I actually joined this company. My father and two colleagues founded the company. And what did they say? Your father's always right. He really thought that I would find this industry interesting. I have a degree in environmental science and really think that the intersection of business and the environment is an interesting place to be and on the forefront of innovation. and that's what got me involved. And now I run the company, have been for quite some time. We do build, own, and operate these facilities. The one that I'm showing you here is our oldest operating facility. It's obviously located on a farm, but it does take in food waste. It's about a 50 uh, combination. It has been since inception. Um, and it's been an interesting ride. The industry has changed quite immensely. And I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to show you one other picture. Give me 1 second. Let's try this one. Can you see this one?
Yep.
Yes, we got you.
Okay. Okay. So this we had sponsored for those who didn't know about biogas, we had sponsored an event whereby people could come and the public could come and get tours, and we hosted a different barbecue, and people could walk and get tours. So this is what this is from. As you can tell, the tent is only temporary, but basically, the path through the receiving tanks, you'll see a truck coming into the driveway here, and these are our multiple receiving tanks coming through the driveway. The truck would continue and go on out, but for the purposes of our walking tour, we went in between, and you'll see this is the uh, it's a GE Yenbacher, and then we have a bunch of containers. This is a pump container, an electrical container, and then coming out here, we've got a biofilter there. You can see we have 3 pasteurizers. Uh, Part of our design. And this right here is actually a repurposed New York Department of Transportation trailer that we put on site to provide bathrooms and a staff room and a place to house some parts. And then if you continue on the walking tour, uh, we keep our separators in here. The screw presses provide bedding for the farm, and the last spot on our walking tour is in here where the bedding is stored so that the farm can use it. And then if you remember from the previous picture, just on this edge right here is the one of the dairy barns, and they pick up the bedding and deposit into the various barns. There's three different barns, the closest one being here on the right. And so this is our oldest facility, been operating continuously since 2011. It was built using the Treasury Grant 1603. That was under Obama, focusing on electricity. That's why we've got the engine still in operation. And we did a similar layout in Ohio, using the same base design with some additional changes and upgrades to it. We have a two-stage biofilter there. We run a centrifuge instead of a screw press, and have some more packaging capability. So, iterating on it. And that one is located in close proximity to the Campbell Soup facility. But again, it's the same base design, using the models that we had evaluated in Europe, and not trying to reinvent the wheel, but rather using what technology has proven to be there. And the technology has worked well for us. Our team has basically remained unchanged for almost the duration. We did have one person retire last year, moved to Florida. But other than that, we maintain and operate and own these facilities ourselves.
Great. Lauren, a couple of questions that come up. First, the operating lifespan so far, almost 15 years. That's, we put these models together for new biogas plants. We said, well, they'll last 20, 25 years and so on. But it's great to see the plant, with the complete mixed reactor actually, seeing that kind of lifetime. And of course, the ones in Denmark have been going for 30 plus. Can you tell us like what are you seeing as the plant is getting older? It's kind of interesting to know like where do you feel, what's your gut feel on the true lifespan of a plant like this at this point?
I think the we did base the design on European design, and we've gone back to our designers, and you're right, like you say, their facilities have been running for 35 to 40 years plus. So I think as long as it's well maintained, we don't see any degradation on the tanks themselves, or the storage tanks, I should say. But certainly concrete, regular wear and tear needs to be relined periodically. The regular maintenance on the parts that that are operating, turning, things like that are moving, those need to be maintained. So we have a whole maintenance schedule that we adhere to, and also we deal a lot with cold weather, so that's added the element of things freezing that weren't supposed to freeze, including a hot water line, which was super interesting, on how that can freeze, but it can. And trying to figure out, always there's new insulation that we're purchasing for some part that didn't freeze last year, that this year felt like it was the year to freeze. So I think there's a lot of preventative maintenance, and then
Hmm.
sort of being part of the elements. I
Yeah.
think the Danish design didn't really take into full effect the upstate New York winter. So there was a lot of protection of ice and things like that we had to adjust for. But, you know, there's always a new day, new challenge, especially with weather.
Tell us a little bit about electricity. You've been really creative and leading in the thought leadership as far as how and where to sell electricity. Can you walk us through that journey and how that's gone for you?
Sure. I mean, electricity, or actually the energy market, is constantly evolving. So we've been constantly evolving with it. And the New York plant, the one that I just showed you, was the first plant, I think the only plant, to connect wholesale and produce power wholesale in New York State. And the reason to do that was to be able to wheel it to New England, which had better electricity pricing, better rec pricing, and allowed us just to access those other markets. And the way that the ISOs work, you have to sell, or you can only sell to ISOs that you're physically in proximity to. So we only had access to the NEPOOL market, New England, and then also the southern markets, just by the way the states are laid out. Obviously, the gas market is national and international, but electricity is a little bit different. And so we had to figure out how to register ourselves in the New York ISO. Uh, they had a hotline. I called them pretty much every 15 minutes for 2 days trying to get through that. They just picked up the phone and said, "Hi, Lauren," because I was the only person calling the NISO hotline. But they were, and one person was manning it, but we got registered, and but over the course of time, the rec programs changed, and New York State's done some interesting things with NYSERDA and other electricity programs. The PSC has changed their structure on wheeling, so then we started selling retail. I think there's just a nascency in this industry in how the energy can be used. So you have to be nimble, and we would just, renegotiate contracts and re-enter them, and constantly looking at where the fees were not, and how the different markets and states act. I mean, they're all very similar, but the devil's always in the
Yeah.
details.
Can you just speak to how your projects were financed as far as debt, equity, that kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the again, and the US was behind Europe in terms of familiarity with these types of projects. We went to US banks initially in 2008 and 9, and there wasn't a lot of receptivity to funding and financing these types of projects. So there wasn't a deep knowledge to provide equity either. So we financed the projects using bank debt in Europe, who have been supporting these types of projects for 20, 30 years prior. So we did that. We used a lot of grants and applied wherever we could, for different grants and awards, and basically self-funded. We have one outside partner.
Did you have any capital from your local partners, say either of your two hosts, the farmer or the big food company, or you're purely
We
on
did not.
there?
We
Yeah.
did not. Yeah, we did not. We kept those relationships, were purely at the business level, purely at the commercial level. Those partnerships were, arranged through service agreements, what we're providing them in terms of, in some cases, energy, some cases, bedding, and in some cases, I guess in both cases, waste management services, which is beneficial to them. They had environmental and economic goals that they were looking to hit, that we could help them to do that. But the structure was inherently different between them, both a function of one being a Fortune 500 food company and the other one being a very large dairy. They have different interests. But again, it comes down to economics and environmental goals.
Are you doing depackaging at either site?
We are doing depackaging at both actually.
Both. Okay.
But more so at our Ohio facility. Again, the proximity to food production makes it a necessity. The dairy has obviously less of a need from their milking cows for depackaging, but we do get a lot of requests. I think that there's a big demand for depackaging. I think it's an opportunity for the biogas industry in general. And there's obviously an evolution in technologies to help support that evolution, but I think it can be very intensive and one-off, so it's hard to figure out. We've gotten very creative in trying to serve our customers. We've used wood chippers, and when things came in that were excessively frozen, to get the particle size down to something we could process. Sort of renting a wood chipper for the purpose of chipping frozen meat was not something we'd ever anticipated, but I think that goes a long way, for having a really good team who's very flexible and creative, in an industry that's evolving like this one, that's nascent, that having the stability and working with a great team to figure out every problem that comes up, whether it be a cold winter or a depackaging issue.
Question came in from Kevin. Given there's a blend of manure and food waste, how does the state environmental compliance authorities view land app of the effluent? Is it the same as manure only, or is there other compliance schemes you've got to comply with?
It's a great question, and that's a very state dependent question. It varies very much by state. It's a local issue. We work very closely with our farms to meet their CAFO and land application goals, and many of the farms around us. So we're always constantly providing data both to the Department of Ag and as well as the local EPA. So there are obviously thresholds that we're looking to stay below, and but I would say overall, I think the EPAs have been evolving in their thinking about recycling of nutrients, which is sort of something we've seen in the duration of our time running these plants. I think you've got increased focus from, obviously the war in Ukraine driving up the costs of fertilizer and things like that. But I think even before that, there was a lot of algae blooms happening, especially on the Great Lakes, where both of our facilities are in close proximity to. So EPA was already thinking in advance about ways to recycle nutrients, and that's something that they've been working with us and other facilities like us to find better ways to land apply.
Have you had positive result? Have you been able to keep track of positive results around nutrient management, sort of before and after the digester? And I mean, those kind of case studies and farmer references when it comes to yield or maxing out phosphorus in your soils, that kind of thing is really valuable for the industry, I think.
Yes, I would agree. And I think that's an evolution. And we found great partners in that through the local universities, actually, who are doing a lot of work. We've sponsored a number of university projects at our facility, some algae projects looking to reduce phosphorus load and graduate level work in terms of how do you address these issues, because they're certainly not going away, and the implication on the soils is critical.
How about on the feedstock side of things? So you obviously want to get as high a tipping fee as you can, but there's some limitations there. Things like competing against landfilling in some of these states where there are no diversion bans per se. Have you found it straightforward enough to get decent quantities of feedstocks?
Yes, I mean, I think it's always the right mix is important, right? And so there's always a constant evaluation of what the product mix is coming in. And I think that we have the advantage of having been operating for such a long duration. I think the pasteurization step has helped us a lot from a biosecurity and enabling us to take in a wide range of different organics. Uh, and I would also say the size of the digester, we're a little less concerned about, taking in acidic waste because we've got a neutral digester, so we can take it in smaller quantities. I think the that helps us quite a bit. And being able to serve those markets. But you're always looking at different levels, price point versus energy content versus availability versus to packaging. I mean, it's a science and an art.
Over time, you've seen probably everything under the sun for feedstocks. Any that you've found you really like, maybe, Greek yogurt way, or any that you really dislike for feedstocks?
Well, I think one of my personal favorites was Captain Morgan's vanilla rum because the plant smelled amazing for like for a week or two, and that was a good counterbalance to the manure, So that would be a personal favorite. And I think the digester was
Yeah.
pretty happy about it too. I think our,
Oh
our
yeah.
bugs were a little thrilled. I'm not sure if it was the vanilla or not though.
Funny, funny. So the Napoleon, Ohio project was down for a little while to get back on its feet on a couple of issues. Any kind of lessons learned there? If you were to redo Napoleon over again, you do anything any differently?
I think that there was a very big learning curve that happened just generally in the state. And I think that we unfortunately got uh, painted with a larger picture that really had nothing to do with us, unfortunately. And it just took time to educate and get back up online. And, you know, always takes longer than you want and expect. But again, we have a really great team in Ohio, and they stuck with it and turned the corner.
So what do you think the future's looking like as far as energy goes? You've done the CHP thing. I know you're looking at RNG, and now there's talk about going back to electricity again with all these data centers around. What do you think the future's looking like for your business?
Well, I think energy, I mean, there's just such a demand for it in any type of form. And I think that being nimble and providing more distributed energy is going to be helpful to us. I think the locations that we're in are tend to be rural, and having backup power to be able to provide to the grid is a benefit, whether it comes in a gas form or an electricity form. We're actually the final stages of permitting for a third facility, and that one will be RNG. But that's again, it's proximity to pipeline. That's the demand in the area. You could just as easily put an engine in there as well. It's just, there's a lot of local elements of this industry overall, and being nimble and allowing time to adjust. I think to get to the scale to be able to work with data centers and sort of the overall energy demand, there needs to be more consolidation within the space to get the critical mass for us to play as an industry. And I think we're headed towards that. I think we've seen a lot of regulatory changes, and I think we've seen a lot of ups and downs on the energy side. But I think the adaptability of the industry is there, and being able to serve multiple markets will only help the viability of this industry.
Anything else to share on the near-term future ahead of us, whether it's excitement about 45Z or opportunities with maritime fuels, anything like that?
I mean, again, I think it's all different. Like maritime, I think there's just a lot of opportunities for us to play. And I think getting to critical mass as an industry is going to make us be able to play at a much larger level. And that's going to open a lot of doors for us as an industry as well as an individual company. So I'm very optimistic about energy demand. And I think that's the role we have to play. And I also think simultaneously, you've got an uncorrelated market in the waste management side. And I think having two different two different markets that we are able to play in and be successful in as an industry is going to pave the way for a lot more success. I think it's taken a while in the US for the policy piece to sort of work itself out, but I feel like we're on a very good trajectory with that. And I think the cost of goods, while it spiked, particularly after COVID and in prior years, I think it's going to start to come down too, as we've got more suppliers who are acting and participating in the space. That always competition helps drive those pricing down, and I think that we're seeing that as well.
Well, great. Well, congratulations on winning a Giants of Biogas award. And I know you and I we hung out a lot in the 2010s, early days of the ABC together. And so
Mhm.
um, yeah, we were part of those early pioneers getting this business off the feet. So it's been a pleasure doing business with you, and all the best to future success.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this, and to see that the industry continues to grow and change. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Great to see you. Drew, have you got a off-take roundup for us today?
I do, but I wanted to kind of also focus
Yeah.
back on Lauren a little bit and tie the two things together because you talked about the ever-changing landscape of the energy markets. From your perspective, how do you feel like CH4 biogas evaluates those opportunities as kind of a tug of war between gas and power, so to say?
Yeah. No, it's a great question because I think it's a constant, right? I mean, everything is we're always evaluating how do you best optimize and monetize, right? Um, so that's been, that's part of what we do, and I think part of being on the board of ABC provides insight to that at a federal level, but I think a lot of it's just driven locally, right? What is the existing infrastructure able to support, and how much, and what's the price point, and so it's a constant reevaluation and flexibility on the funding side that's helped us. And flexibility on our team that we're changing gears all the time. And I think that's just what makes this industry great and will help us long term as a
Yeah.
company and as an industry, frankly.
Yeah, it's a question that we run into a lot. Product developers have a feedstock location, so on and so forth, that they believe that they could have a viable project in. But their biggest question is, do we generate power? Do we generate gas?
Mhm.
Um, they may have an idea of where the nearest pipeline is or where the nearest interconnect point is and who they're going to have to work with to do that. But then it kind of comes down to, well, what financing approach are we taking? Do we need a bankable offtake either through a PPA or through an RNG offtake? And what is that going to look like on a 3, 5, 10, 20 year timeline?
Yeah.
And is there going to be this kind of FOMO, that you miss out on a market if something takes off in value? Uh, just because you wound up being at the wrong place at the wrong time or right place at the wrong time, or who knows.
Yeah.
We've been seeing, so to kind of quickly pick up on pricing, we've been seeing LCFS prices pick up a bit again. The futures are trading 66.75 as of this morning, with physical delivery trading 64 and a quarter for Q2 and 65.50 for Q4. So they're up about $5 or $6 on the LCFS pricing. D3 RINs, they're still trading around 240. Always happy to dig into a regional electricity market pricing. Obviously, that's a lot more in depth and complicated with on peak and off peak and around the clock pricing and rec pricing. But we're always happy to dig into that because I do think that balance is important, is understanding where are things on the forward curve for both of these markets. That said, Alex, I always appreciate the extra little market insight and questioning. And I know I can be a little bit technical with those answers sometimes, but I do think that a lot of these things interact with each other between the crude and the gas markets and the power markets. So never
Yeah.
something to be left out.
It's definitely a mind-bending time. I mean, And the reason I've been asking about the oil price is that if you just look at kind of the basket or the full projects, like so the full suite of projects, landfill, including landfill, dairy, food waste, etc., municipal, and a weighted average price that kind of makes biogas plants sort of work. Actually, leaving out the landfill, just looking at biogas plants, I think about $25 per million BTU is the general number that I have that makes that can make the plants move. That's I think it's equivalent to about $150 a barrel. And so, but we're not trading in that market, right? We're not in the liquid fuels market, and we are competing ultimately against Permian fracked gas at $3 a million BTU. So there's this massive disconnect between the rest of the world and us. And frankly, we've got just very cheap. Our main product is very cheap. Um, I mean,
Um,
so
I will say that I think that with where the CFR market is today, food waste projects do have an eligible pathway to
yeah,
getting $25 per MMBTU net on environmental attributes only back to them for any project that can make it into Canada
agree,
by January of 2027.
agreed. Yeah, yep, yep.
All right.
Well, we could go on that one, but Lauren, congratulations, and it's a great story.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
I love that it's a family affair, dad and daughter, and yeah, great story, great story. So wonderful. We're at time. Thanks again to panelists, guests. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week. We will see you next Monday.